Hello, wonderful humans, and welcome to our live today. We're going to have a really great time today going over some of the ways that you can thrive at work. My name is Annie, and I'm your friendly local ADHD coach. And I just want to do a quick poll. Whether you're watching this later or you're watching this now, go ahead and put it into the chat box. What is your biggest work challenge as someone who has ADHD? I'm going to put that in the chat here. What is your work as a woman with ADHD? All right. And just a little bit about me. So I've been in education for a real long time. I'm not going to say how long because I don't want to date myself. Anyways, but I transitioned a couple years ago because I started seeing myself work a lot with the families that I was serving. I have ADHD myself. I was late diagnosed in my 30s. And once I got that diagnosis, so many things in my life made more sense. And yet those challenges were still there. So I spent the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years really digging into everything and trying to understand the neuroscience behind it, the best practices, what people were experiencing, and just dove straight into it all. I crashed out too. I burnt out at work. I went too hard for too long and I just couldn't anymore. So I took a hard reset about a year and a half ago. And with that reset, I rebuilt my life around my brain, what's good for it, and how to move forward. And I'd love to share those tips with you and my clients. So come and join us. And if you're a working woman, this is probably a great place for you to start dealing with your ADHD and how much it is affecting you. Because when we're at work, it really does affect us. It can make us feel like we're not able to keep up with everybody else, or that we're constantly, failing at tasks that we say we can do, or we're doing amazing for like 3 days, and then we can't seem to answer an email. So these tips hopefully will help you set yourself up for success. And if you feel like you need a little bit more support than that, I'd love to welcome you over to my website. It's flourishwithfernandez.com. I'm going to put that in the chat box as well. But flourishwithfernandez.com, you're going to find more resources as well as ways to reach out for me for a free consult to see if ADHD coaching might be working for you. All right, so let's get started. Today's goals, we're going to be sharing three game-changing strategies that have helped me and my clients succeed at work. I'm going to provide you some practical, implementable tips you can start using tomorrow and show it's possible not just to survive, but thrive with ADHD in the workplace. I've also got a freebie for you at my website. So if you head over there, you're going to find your sensory at work diagnostic, which we'll use later on in the webinar. All right. We've gone over a little bit why this matters, but I'm pretty sure you can figure out why it would matter to you and your life if work was a little bit easier, even though ADHD can be a barrier to a lot of those things. So, mastering workplace accommodations. That is my number one tip. We have to be able to either ask for, take, and apologize later, or just take and not tell anybody because they probably won't even notice our accommodations. So many times, we as women feel like we are silenced and that we can't ask for what we need. And I'm going to show you some ways that we can ask for what we need, ways that we can just take what we need, and ways that we can decide what it is we need. So, we may worry about judgment seeming difficult, and without accommodations, we burn through our energy because we're compensating, we're masking, and that has to stop because it's taking you away from your greatness. So, step one, we're going to identify your specific needs. I want everybody who's watching this to visualize. We're going to do a quick little visualization exercise. Imagine yourself in your most challenging work scenario. Is it the phone from your friend's cubicle that's ringing and the noise from the elevator, and you haven't gone to the restroom and it's 3 o'clock and you're just tapping your foot, but you can't go because you're in the middle of a meeting? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you work in retail and it is a line that never ends and you know you have to get over there and fold all the things and you just can't. Or maybe you work in an environment where you're stuck in a car for a really long time and movement and stretching really, really starts to get to you and you become distracted. And by the time you get to your event or the place that you need to be, you're already burnt out. So we're going to really work on that. If you need to stretch, movement breaks, ways that you can incorporate that is there are a lot of different ways to incorporate movement. And I'm going to talk to you about that. One of those things that is hard for us as women to do is to take up space. And when we take movement breaks, we take up space. We take up visual space and we take up physical space. So, really, what we want to do is we want to start the conversation effectively. We want to start this expectation that we're going to be moving before we even get into that situation. So if it's a planned situation, say you've got a meeting back to back to back on Friday and you're like 3 hours in a row, I'm going to go and lose my cookie beans. You might go to your supervisor early and say, "Hey, I noticed on Friday it's going to be back to back meetings and I would really like to turn off my camera for those movement breaks, or maybe I can just come late to the second meeting because I need to stretch my legs or I'm just gonna go a little bit numb." You don't have to tell them the exact reason. You can sort of fudge it a little bit. This is when gaslighting might actually be something I recommend. You might want to just tell them you need to go to the restroom, or you're going to tell them, "I'm going to have my third cup of coffee. And if I don't go, I'm going to be just completely focused on needing to go to the restroom." Most of the time, if it's a bodily need, people will totally capitulate. If you feel comfortable with your supervisor, you might tell them, "Hey, that's too much for my ADHD. I really need to be able to turn off my camera for a few minutes here and there, whether it's to move, whether it's to get a new fidget, whatever it is." But you have to find your comfort level. And this works because it frames your needs as a performance enhancement. It lets them know that you're going to be able to do your best because you're given that accommodation. And you can ask for input rather than making demands. Is it okay if I do this or this? Give them a choice. The choice isn't that you're not going to have a movement break. You're asking when and where it would be the most beneficial to the rest of the individuals as well as yourself. So you're setting yourself up for success and you are giving them a choice while you're still demanding what you need. And it shows forethought and professionalism. It lets them know that in the moment, you're not going to say, "Hey, I'm like super, super bouncy. I need to move." You've already set that. So when your camera goes off or you show up a few minutes late to that meeting, it's not a big deal. You've already established that that's going to happen and the meeting just moves on. And let's say you have a less flexible environment. Use the show don't tell approach. One of my favorite examples is if, say, you're going to a convention or somewhere that's loud. Maybe you've got a really loud open work environment and you just want it to dampen down. I highly recommend loops. They're amazing. They're super discreet. You can still see them. And sometimes people might assume that it's an earbud and you're listening to music or things. You can get ones that are clear or that obviously show that they're not as well. But what I do is I just keep them in and I become enthusiastic and I explain it before anybody has a chance even to notice them. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you guys, these are amazing. I can still hear conversations without overwhelming the background noise. It helps me to focus more, especially in this open environment. Doesn't it drive you nuts?" That helps address their concerns proactively. In your explanation, you've already told them you can totally hear them, that it just brings it down a little bit. And you give them an offer to come into the same environment because they may not have ADHD, but they also could find noise distracting. It gives them a place to enter into the conversation and relate to you. And because you've addressed their concern that they can hear you proactively, when they see you with their loops, all they're going to think of, "Oh, shoot, I need to order those." They're not going to think, "What is in her ear?" They know what it is, and they know that it's there to help you be productive and present for your colleagues. So, create a win win situation when possible. Say you need a longer break, and you're like, "I just need to get out of the convention for a little while because it's all too much, the visual, the sensory input, all of the noise, all of the newness." You might say, "Hey, I think we're gonna need coffee around 3 o'clock. What if I head out at 2:30, go down to Starbucks, and I'll take all your orders and I'll bring you back what you guys want?" That's a win-win for everybody. They get coffee, they know when it's coming, you've scheduled your break, and you actually didn't have to tell anybody the reason why. It sounds like you were thinking of them versus serving your own needs, and that's okay. You don't have to tell everybody everything. You can give a scenario the way that will benefit you, especially when you're protecting your own privacy and your own health. So, if something is working for you, make a little note somewhere, either in your brain, on a paper, put it into your Google Calendar for an event later on, whatever works for you, but keep those things kind of in the back burner. You can even use a Post-it, and I put down my strategies, put them on Post-its underneath on the very bottom of my screen because that lets me see it over and over. And once it's sort of incorporated into my brain, I can throw that post it away. And remember, these accommodations help you bring your best self to work. So when you ask for it, you're really doing everybody a favor. Tip number two, we're going to be optimizing our workspace. This is the challenge. Our physical environment drastically impacts our focus. If it's not right around me, my physical space, I am not going to be my best self because there's so many layers to sensory input for us, especially women. We are very, very prone to being overly sensitized, especially if we have kids, if we are working with um, a lot of men who might say, "Oh, can you get me coffee? Can you take notes for this meeting?" All those different sort of microaggressions. Or if we have kids, there's a lot of touching and sensory input as soon as we get home. So at work, we might already be burned out from drop off. So we really want to make sure that our workspace is set up the best for us. And we need systems that work with our ADHD and not against it. So here are some essential work categories. Notes and reminder systems. Whatever works for you will work for you. However, you need to remember that not all of these things will work forever. So they have to be visible and within arm's reach, and they have to be something that becomes new and novel. If you use the same stack of post it notes forever and ever, at a certain point, we're not going to reach for them as much as we normally would because it's boring. It's old. Our whole desk is full of yellow post it notes, and we can't see what is important or what is different. So, some of the options you might want to do to sort of combat that, say you're in a desk environment like this, you might use sticky notes, you might do a whiteboard that's attached to your computer area, you might have something on the side of your screen, whatever it is, that's going to work for you. You could also use voice commands and Siri to say, like, hey, do these things for me, remind me. You can also do something creative. I used to take hair ties and put them on my wrist if I needed to remember something on the left. And once I did it, it moved to the right because that felt more comfortable. So the discomfort of it being on my left wrist kept me remembering that I needed to do something. Once it moved to my right wrist, it was comfortable and I forgot it was there. So later on in the day, if I was like, oh, now I need to remember to do this, I could quickly move it over to my left. The discomfort then again reminds me. And if you're not at a desk, if you're retail or moving around, you might want to have a to go kit. My to go kit at work when I am on campus, when I work with students still, is I have a tiny little A5 notebook, like trapper keeper basically. And in it, I've got a fidget, a couple pieces of gum, a stack of my funnest sticky notes, a highlighter, and a pen. Inside, I have places that have, like, little nooks and crannies that I can shove stuff, so if somebody hands me something, or if I end up taking notes on a bigger thing, or there's, just some randomness that somebody gives me, I can stick that in there. A note from another friend, or somebody comes in to let me know and tap my shoulder, "Hey, you need to know this." I have a place to stick it, and it all comes into this notebook pocket. Also, everybody knows it's mine. So when invariably I lose it, they're able to bring it back to me. And that's really important as well. So if you have something that you're always carrying with you when you go sort of out of your desk space, out of your car, wherever you normally work, your to go kit is really going to be helpful. I've also done it when I worked in retail and at restaurants where one pocket of my apron was just dedicated to things that I needed, my chapstick, hair tie. Um, Usually a paper clip is my favorite to go fidget, same with a bobby pin, because I can keep them, and when people see them in my hands, they're not like, "What is that?" They're like, "Oh, she has a paper clip. Oh, she has a bobby pin." I can also put the bobby pin on my wrist hair tie and pull it and move it, and it's very, very inconspicuous. Um, so you wanna make it fun, you wanna make it novel, go to the store, buy the weird pig sticky notes. Buy yourself like invisible markers that you have to like write on special paper. Whatever it is, whatever makes you happy to write on it, you're going to reach for it more often and you're going to use the tool more often. And also, one of the things you might want to do is include silly reminders because, especially when I hear my phone tell me I need to do something, it can make me ignore it because it's told me all day what I need to do. So instead, if I add some silly reminders along the way, I break up that neurological pathway in my brain that says, phone, yell at me bad, versus phone, tell me something. What is? That's kind of what we want to do. And make sure you're changing those formats regularly so that we don't become burnt out on them. All right. Now we talk about our body needs and our toolkit. You heard me talk about my to go kit, but this is where that sensory diagnostic tool that's on my website is going to come in super, super handy because it's going to help you track for about 2 days really what is annoying you. Is it chapped lips? Then you might want to stash a lip balm in every single place that you could possibly be, your work bag, your purse, your to go kit, notebook, in your pocket. Every single jacket when I put them on, there's a chapstick or something in one of the pockets. The same thing with eye drops. Staring at the screens all day really does get to me. And if I am having scratchy eyes or dry lips, I can think of almost nothing else. That's what works for me. That sensory diagnostic tool is really going to help you decide where your sensory deficit is. And also, our emotional support water bottles, they are magic. Keep them with you, defend them at all costs, and find cool stickers. So, using that diagnostic tool to track what about your bodily needs, your sensory input is. Maybe it's sound every day at 3 and you hear people moving around. It drives you nuts. It could be something that is touch or taste related too. You might get hungry around 3 o'clock. You're not really hungry, but you find yourself chewing on your pen cap, things like that. Then you might need a sensory tool that's going to support you on that, whether it's gum, whether it is a snack, whether it is fuzzy water, that would be gross. Fizzy water, anything that really kind of sticks out to serve that sensory need. And if you're struggling with figuring all of that out, ADHD coaches are great at that. And the very last two things that I think that you really need to be successful when you're setting up your workspace and environment is having backups on backups on backups on backups. If our favorite pencil is gone, we may not want to take as many notes. If our Where's one of my other favorite things? Ooh, my inhaler. If I don't have my inhaler with me and I start having asthma, I will be distracted. Also, if I don't have it with me and I notice it, I start to fixate on that. So I have an asthma inhaler with me pretty much everywhere. Same thing with headphones. I probably have 2 sets of headphones in any one of my desk drawers or purses at any time. So if one is dead, I can go to the next. I did not buy them all at once. They are not expensive ones. I buy them when I find them on Black Friday or clearance items because they're coming out with a new one. I just need them to work a little bit while I'm at my desk. I don't need major noise canceling. So it was financially like feasible for me to end up with like 6 pairs. And when I lose one, it doesn't really matter because by the time I find it, I've just killed the battery on the other one that's in my desk, and it's great. Got my eye drops, and I live for binder clips. They make my life super, super happy, so I have to have tons of those. Again, if you look in a lot of coat pockets, there's a lot of binder clips. So whatever is, ooh, and hot sauce. Because if I am eating at my desk or if I'm having a snack here and I don't like it, instead of me becoming distracted and then leaving and finding a new piece of or a new thing for food, I can usually get by with a little bit of hot sauce. So whenever I see those at takeout or things like that, I definitely grab a couple extra. So making sure that you have backups on backups on backups for the things that you really need really, really helps you because small inconveniences equal major ADHD derailments. So the more we can prep ourselves for that and build the space around us so that it has that capacity to take on when something goes wrong, the better we're going to be able to focus on the work that we need to do at the time. All right, our very last tip. We've touched on it a little bit. Again, some of these tips will overlap because they really do with ADHD. One thing is always 5 things with us. So that's sensory management and mastery. It is our hidden saboteur of workday success. We underestimate how much energy we spend compensating for sensory input, and small sensory irritations compound throughout the day so that maybe at work we're able to keep it together. But I bet you a lot of you have gone home and your spouse or your children or your roommates have noticed you've crashed and burned and you need some support. Or they need to leave you alone for hours on end and your chores suffer, your ability to do hobbies suffer, your ability to see friends and interact with them sincerely suffers. So the more we can lower our sensory input at work, the better we're going to be able to live the rest of our lives. Yes, it will make us less distracted at work, but really we are looking to set ourselves up for success for the rest of the day by understanding the sensory input that is particular to our work site. So using that sensory diagnostic tool and figuring out really where are those disruptions coming from in your senses are going to help you a lot. So I talk about your space, I talked about the sensory, but I really want to dial in on that now. Women, we come with some special things. Um, Bras are terrible. We hate them. At least I do. I've never met a woman who's like, you know what I need right now? Underwire. If you are that woman, you're magic and sunshine, and I'm also a little afraid for you, but that's okay. Um, we also sometimes have to wear uniforms that are really uncomfortable, but remember we can do things to modify them. Bras, we can make sure that we are finding really, really good alternatives to underwire. So using like, this is a supportive top. I get it. I wear it underneath a lot of my clothes as a bra, even though it is meant to be a top outside. Built-in workout tank tops, things like that are really good for foundation garments. Sometimes I double up. So I'll have a very nice, comfy um, sports bra or just like underwire free bra. And then I make sure that I'm wearing sort of a form fitting tank top before I put on a dress shirt or a sweater or something like that so that I have two sort of layers. Also, nip covers, those silicone ones, magic. Magic, I tell you. It can help me not have to wear the real bra on days that I just can't, which is most of them, anything that ends with a Y. Work uniforms, remember, you can cut out the tags. You also can go to your local dry cleaner and have them add a piece of fabric around the collars that's softer and just like not as irritating. Same thing around the waist of pants. They can add sort of a barrier fabric that feels a lot better, or a panel by your buttons, because sometimes the buttons, the back of the buttons can dig into our stomach and just sort of really take us off task. So remember that you can add things to your work uniforms by going to a dry cleaner. Sometimes you can find a tailor or a seamstress or somebody who does alterations on Facebook Marketplace as well if you don't have a dry cleaner near you that you like, or don't have access to it. Those can be really, really good tools, and they're usually pretty cheap. To add a piece of fabric or something like that, it's about $10, $15. And when we think about sort of the longevity of our work uniforms, that could be a really good investment. If it's something that you wanna attach to all of them and you're like, "Well, $10, $20, that's gonna be in the hundreds for all of my pieces," you can have them add it with snaps. So if you've got a piece of fabric to go here or to keep your collar from itching you, or maybe you've got a seam down here, have them add in some snaps so that you can remove that piece of fabric and move it to your next item, so that you don't have to put it on each one of your uniforms. Shoes, just invest in the shoes. Invest in the best shoes you can, buy them in different colors, change them frequently. When I used to work a double at the restaurants, I would change everything. I would go in for my first shift, I would then leave, go to the restroom. Sometimes it was only 5 or 10 minutes, and I would change everything from my socks to my shoes to my bra to my hair ties, everything to help me feel like I was a new person. And it really did work. It brought me back to life many, many a doubles. Um, so now we're talking about sound management. We talked about the loops and the noise canceling headphones. If you want to use a noise canceling headphone in your work environment, one of the best things that I've found is a focus light system and a pom pom jar. Let me let me explain. So you might take a glass jar or something like this, and those colorful pom poms that you get at the craft store, you can get them for like $5 for a ginormous pack of them. You can put them in there and then attach on one side of the jar or next to it one of those push lights. Just one of those like click push lights you can get. IKEA has a bunch of them. You can get them on Amazon as well. And when you've got your noise canceling headphones on, go ahead and you're like, I cannot hear you. It's loud. And I'm like, I literally am blocking everything out. Press that light. And then right on here, throw a pom pom if you need my attention. Once you invite people to have fun with your accommodation, they're not going to be able to complain because what are they going to tell HR? I have to throw this pom pom at her and I don't like it. Wait, what? You have to throw what at her? Like it becomes absurd to argue against you. And so therefore you get to keep the accommodation and you didn't really have to ask anybody. You gave a solution and you let them know on the sign, hey, it's trying to focus, throw a pom pom if you need me. So they're not tapping on your shoulders and you're not jumping in being all stressed out. I've seen that. That's really worked in the past. You can think of a million different systems. And if you want help making your own system, come on over to my website and check in with me and we can do something one-on-one for a coaching session. And one of the last ones, if you are needing some sensory recovery time during the day, work with your supervisors, work with your coworkers, and see if you can plan those in. One of the best things that I like to do is I go to my car for a lunch break if I'm really feeling overwhelmed. And I let them know, hey, I've got to make a personal call. I'm going to go to my car. Nobody is going to be like, what? And if they are, then you can go to HR and be like, they're wondering what I'm doing on my break with my personal phone call. And HR will have a talk with them instead. So, cars can be really good if you don't have access to a car, so you live in a city and you train in. Another thing that I have found really successful with people is going into the stairwell for those short breaks or asking if there is another place in the building that you can take either a private phone call that you can just take a few minutes, eat your lunch in there, or just go in and do some quick breathing exercises. Usually, if you say to somebody, hey, it's super loud in this environment, I just need like a minute, like once a day, where I can just go and it's like quiet. I've noticed that back room is not used much unless it's for conferences. Can I just go in there and sit for a second? I will complete some work in there, or I just need 5 minutes and I'll be back at my desk. Most of the time, your boss will be accommodating. If you're struggling with that, you may want to reach out to somebody at HR or a lawyer because ADHD is a protected class. It is a disability, especially if it's impacting your ability to function day to day, which for most of us, it does. So, all right. Use that sensory diagnostic to help you identify those areas. And if you need more support on personalizing your choices for you, reach out to me. So, here's a quick recap. Tip number one, master accommodation conversations. Sometimes it's not asking, it's telling. Sometimes it's just informing, and sometimes it's educating. You feel what's right for you and work with your coworkers, your supervisors, and anybody who kind of comes in contact with you to set yourself up for success. The tip number two was to optimize your physical workspace. So, thinking what are the things you need within reach? What does that look like? Even if you're sort of at a cash register area, setting up your drawer for you the way that you like it would be really important. And last tip number three, manage your sensory environment. It is our silent killer both at work and at home. And so we really can take a step back, use that diagnostic tool on my website, and see what will work for you. Trial and error. Also, what works for a while might not work forever, and be prepared for that. So, here's your next steps. Choose one strategy to implement tomorrow. Download the free sensory diagnostic tool at my website, flourishwithfernandez.com, and join our ADHD community. If you feel like you need some more one on one support, you can schedule a free consultation with me on my website, and I'd love to see you there. Transforming your life with one on one coaching is the next step. But if you're here ready to take this step for your 3 tips on how to make your work environment better, then more power to you because the only one who's going to be able to step in and make choices for you at the end of the day is you. And I hope you found this helpful. So thank you so much and see me next month for our next webinar. All right. Love you guys. Bye.